Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Norm.
Some people just don't know how to tell a joke, Adam.
Some people have a way with words, and some people,
So Spider-Man finally nailed, not caught that one, huh?
I have not yet seen Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oh, it's so good.
We went out to the movies recently. We saw Once Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, Once Upon a Time in America, I would go see in the theater again.
Yeah, I would too. But Once Upon, I don't really want to talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I haven't seen it yet.
I will say that my new thing to do now after watching new movies is Vanity Fair has a really great web series called Notes on a Scene. I want to give that a recommendation. And with new releases and with old releases, they get directors, actors, and even like stunt coordinators and production designers to basically do sometimes it's 30 minutes. Like they did one on Fast 5 or Fast 6, like the deconstructing of a chase scene. I don't remember.
The jumping out of the plane?
No. On
So
that one, it was the one of the car jumping the meridian.
Yes.
I remember reading it at the time. It was really cool.
And that's a 30-minute, like, scene by scene to, like, a 10-minute thing on, like, Forrest Gump and how they made a Vietnam scene look like Vietnam in Forrest Gump from production design standpoint. And they're really great little meditations on production that come from the filmmakers themselves. And I appreciate those a lot more than sometimes some of the essays that I see.
What is it? What is it called again?
Notes on a Scene, Vanity Fair. And I mentioned that because Quentin Tarantino and Leonardo DiCaprio did a co-one that in which they deconstruct the character Rick Dalton, a fake Hollywood character made for this movie. And I think probably Quentin Tarantino and maybe Joss Whedon are the two writers who, when they write films, they have like entire history of characters.
I'd say Jim Cameron fits in that one too, probably.
Yeah.
I guess now that Tony Zhou's still no longer making every frame of painting, well, this is what we have to. I want more from Tony. I miss Tony.
Yeah, Tony and his partner on that were exceptional.
I mean, that pairing, their partnership and the work that they did was stunning. I still go back and watch them occasionally.
Oh, they're good. They're still good. Yeah. Mikey Newman does a lot of good stuff with movies with Mikey. If you're in, it's a little more poppy. Yeah. So like he does good at it. He does very, I would call them sassy edits, I think.
But they're great. He just put one out on Pacific Rim.
Oh, I haven't watched that
last week, and it's a lot. It's not just like taking footage from the movie and cutting it together.
No, yeah.
It's a whole journey he takes you on.
He kind of breaks down and analyzes the whole thing. He did one for Shrek, of all things, a few weeks ago. They got into like the Eisner. I guess I can't remember who the person in the DreamWorks side, but like the Disney DreamWorks beef and how Shrek was a direct response to Disney being shitty and kind of snarfing up all IPs for all time.
They wouldn't let Shrek shave his mustache, and they had to digitally replace.
Yeah, well, but it was specifically like the thing that Mikey got into was how Disney told these public domain fairy tales and then made them not public domain by bringing them into the Disney canon and how like part of the creative underpinning of Shrek, which I really never absorbed before, was this whole idea that, hey, it's weird that somebody can come through and own essentially Grimm's fairy tales, a large chunk of Grimm's fairy tales.
I see.
So anyway, Mikey's good. Yeah, you should watch movies with Mikey.
Okay.
Related to that one, if you haven't seen the Pacific Rim one, the question he brings up is King Kong a kaiju?
No, absolutely not.
No?
I'm going to go watch the video and I'll take my mind.
Is that a hot dog a sandwich for monster for movies?
The Enterprise beats the Superstar Destroyer.
Of course it's mechanically a sandwich.
Oh, God damn it. I'm out. This is it. I've had enough.
So, sorry. Is King Kong
We've really
a
gone
kaiju?
off the rails right away. Oh. I love... Look, is King Kong a kaiju is a terrific question from which to unpack a whole bunch of wonderful
of course.
And that's how he starts it off.
So shut your mouth.
The unpacking he does... I'm sorry. I watched it recently. I can't get it out of my head. He goes and talks about... and I can't do it as good as him, but the Godzilla, the film... popularized in the U.S. was a popularized version of a bad dubbing, right? So the American version that we got in 58, I want to say, was basically the Japanese version with a new American actor put in to do VO, and then
it was Ray Milland?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
And the Japanese scientists, even what they dubbed wasn't what they were actually saying. Complete misinterpretation, just appropriation of that story, which then created the Godzilla fad in the U.S., which then spawned things like Jurassic Park, to the point where it goes to Jurassic Park: The Lost World, in which there's a scene where the T-Rex is walking down L.A. and you have Spielberg has San Diego, has a Japanese businessman screaming and misinterpreting then the T-Rex as Godzilla, and then it all comes full circle.
Oh,
amazing.
Man.
Amazing.
Yeah, Mikey's great.
Yeah.
And Godzilla was, I remember specifically finding out that, like, we grew up with Godzilla as a bad guy.
Yeah.
But it's
Godzilla's
much more
the
nuanced
protector,
and complex. Yeah. That's awesome.
I always thought Matthew Broderick was the bad guy, but what do I know?
It's Hank Azaria.
Oh, my bad.
The camera guy, yeah. Speaking of fun YouTube videos we've seen, this past weekend, there was a video that came to our attention. I'm sure many people tweeted to you about it, about a guy who turned your book into a hammer.
Yeah, that guy, oh my God.
Peter Brown, I believe his name.
What's that?
Okay.
Peter Brown.
What?
Yeah.
And he has a significant YouTube following. It's on my list to go check out his output, because what he did was stunning and awesome.
How did you do it?
He basically, Kristen was telling me about it. She's like, hey, some guy turned your book into a hammer. And I said, did he infuse all the pages with resin and then make cut a hammer out of that? She's like, yes. And I'm like, that's how I would do it. But when you that laminated paper and resin, it basically makes micarta. So he effectively turned my book into micarta and then carved a hammer out of it and used it to hammer and nail. That is exactly the kind of absurd, overly literal, perfect thing to do with my book. I hope he read it before he did it. Maybe
rad.
I should send him a free audiobook just so I could, speak into his ear while he's working on the next one.
I think he's offering to send you the hammer, too.
Really?
If you want the hammer.
Oh, my God. I totally want the hammer.
All right.
That belongs in here.
We'll figure out a way.
Every book is a hammer, but only this hammer was a book.
In your book specifically. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Go
ahead.
And I was going to say, last week...
Are you guys the polite chipmunks today?
Yeah.
Oh, no, after you.
No, Norm, but of course.
The other thing I want to... We alluded to this last week when we recorded, but we finally put the video out. You have behind us... It's not in frame in the camera, but the alien suit.
That was the first thing I wanted to see when I hit the door, and I completely forgot, but I can see it. It's in my field of view, and they did an exceptional job.
Isn't it astounding?
It is amazing.
So, but what we have here, and the video is up today, and we'll post a picture at the bottom, is the alien environmental spacesuit made by the North Bergen High School, New Jersey students that put on that incredible production of Alien early this year under the aegis of their teacher, Stephen DeFendini. They did such amazing work. It was I'm so glad we get to highlight it on Tested. We were texting them pictures of the unboxing as we were filming it, and they were all like super excited to see the pictures of their helmet next to my helmet.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Stephen told me that the patterning of that helmet out of camping mats and hot glue was the most difficult aspect of the costume. It took them a bunch of iterations. But
how did they make the dome?
The dome was the one thing they spent money on. That was actually an acrylic light globe that they bought from a lighting website. And that was the most expensive part of the entire high school production.
Did they crochet the sleeves?
No, they cut that off of something and just glued it onto fabric. It's
very good.
I'll tell you, Ryan Nagata was here last week, and we have some videos coming up soon of his visit because we have some show and tells. But one of the things he brought to show us was a spacesuit he made when he was 14. And he took a pair of coveralls and cut them up, but he couldn't sew, so he glued the parts back together.
Make it work.
Totally reasonable.
Yeah.
And in fact, when we held up his original parts next to some of his recent parts, it's an impressive effort for a 14-year-old. My suit that I made in my early 30s didn't even come close to the level of fidelity.
Is that the one that was on Mythbusters?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
His was far better.
Yeah.
The ingenuity there. I mean, the neck ring being the top of like a gallon bucket, like a detergent that you cut off, just so it has
like a drywall bucket.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
But the energy within his spacesuit reminds me of the energy in this alien suit, and my hat has to go off to them because one of the hardest things to get is size, and they got the size of that.
The ratios on everything's right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I put that on, and we took some pictures of me, and I was scrolling through my phone to show some friends at dinner last night a picture, and I came across the photo of me wearing that suit that the high school students built. And in the small thumbnail on my phone, I was like, when did I put on my alien suit? Like, it fooled me 3 days after the fact.
It reads perfectly.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked about early on when we first started doing this podcast, and people were asking a lot of questions about it, like how do I learn how to make stuff. I think you said go sign up to volunteer or get a job working at a prop department of like a community theater or something like that. And this is the epitome of that advice.
All the actual raised lines on the helmet and the other stuff is literally hemp twine glued with hot glue. Now, you might normally feel like you'd rather use like a Tygon tubing or a surgical tubing and stuff like that. The fact is, all of those are really hard to glue because they're vinyl and they don't like to stick to stuff. And this is a perfect solution because from 3 feet away, you can't tell that it's rough and tumble. All that edge detail disappears, and just the gesture of the topography remains. And they nailed it in every case.
Well, also it has what you see when you get close to like Star Wars miniatures and how they kit bash and how IL Marks found parts. Like you get close to the top of the helmet, and they did kit bashing here, but you see the sprues and you see things like toys and GI Joes and Transformers, and they're all painted over, and it's like you get extra detail when you get up close.
I'm 8 feet away, and it looks like space trucker grungy.
Yeah,
like it is so well done.
I know. It endlessly inspires me. It will always now live next to its brother, the real thing.
That's so cool.
And I'm so chuffed. I'm beyond words.
How did they do the hexes on the wrists? Do you know what they are? Are they just like cut out pieces of rubber with a bolt through them or something?
Exactly. I think that's exactly it, with a button in the middle, and it's all hot glue.
Super
Speaking
smart.
of hot glue, the moment in the video where you turn over and they sent Adam a framed and signed a hot glue gun, the hot glue gun they used. That was a wonderful moment.
Oh, that's very good.
They sent me the weapon.
That's very good. I was so stoked that they got to do the second second showings and all that.
Yeah.
I hope that. I mean, it's just rad. It's so cool.
And I'm really pleased with how this. Did I talk about this about copyright issue? I think I might have on a podcast.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit.
The thing that I love is that it opens up the cultural mind to something new.
Yeah.
Which is, if you choose your director wisely, you could do probably any Favreau film you wanted, and he would be super stoked. This is what it is to take something and transform it, and this is the soul of fair use. So I want to see more high schools doing high budget Hollywood blockbusters as school plays for tiny budgets, and I want to help them if I can.
The Cabrillo Elementary School in Pacifica, California presents Swingers by John Favreau.
Elf, come on. Zathura.
You grows up, and you grows up, and you grows up.
Speaking of people making things that I didn't know were fascinating to watch, I have watched all of the Netflix Blown Away show, the glass blowing.
The glass blowing competition show.
Like, if I'm going to be reductive and lame, it's Top Chef with glass blowing instead of food.
Okay.
Okay. But it's a fair comparison because they do a really I know nothing about glass blowing other than what I've learned from this show.
And it's Netflix, yes?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's a Canadian production, I think. I don't know if Netflix paid for it or if it's something that they brought in. But it feels respectful in a way that a lot of like American kind of people building things.
You mean respectful to the craft itself?
To both, to the craft and the contestants. Like I don't get the feeling that they're giving unreasonable time limits for the people to make stuff under. I feel like they're giving them reasonable constraints, and like the challenge is the art, not the challenge is making people pissed off and angry because it makes for better TV.
Right. Yeah. The ginned up competitions and this guy's the bad guy, etc.
Like, for example, there's a moment in one of the early episodes that I almost turned it off during because like somebody leaves. There's these things called annealers where you put the hot glass in so it cools down gradually over time and doesn't explode. And somebody left the door open for too long, and they, like, one of the other contestants yelled and was like, "Hey, you're leaving that open too long." And then they, rather than interviewing somebody to make them seem like those people were having beef, they interview somebody else, and he's like, "Yeah, well, actually, leaving the door open on the annealer too long can cause her sculpture to shatter or sag or whatever. Like it is a real problem." And she was probably right to say, "Hey, shut the damn door." It's fascinating because I didn't know about blowing glass at all, but the medium, like the show is about the medium in a way that's really fascinating because it's like. They all take a lot of time and plan. They figure out what they're going to do, and they have a good game plan going in, and they have 4 or 5 hours to do their piece.
And then all hell breaks loose.
But yeah, it's very improvisational because like what happens after they get the glass hot, and like when a torch goes out or something like that.
Right.
They have to figure out how to work around that, and the contestants are all lifting each other up. It's entirely possible that people who actually blow glass for a living are looking at this like, man, this is some grade A bullshit.
That's the thing, is that I in DC, I met somebody who a local glass blower gave me a couple of pieces of his, one for tested and one for me, and I said, "Oh, you're a glass blower? That's awesome. How do you like that new glass blowing show? Because I just heard about it." And he went, And I don't know what that.
You don't know why that.
I don't know why. Look, it could be a host of reasons. It could be that the art is not as fully covered as glass blowers would like, and I'd love to hear in the comments what actual glass blowers think of that. Because again, like you, I appreciate the craft shows that put the craft and the desire for craft front and center, not the desire to win.
Yeah, I'm always in to watch people who are among the best in the world at any given thing do that thing.
Well, right? Those shows are best when the final result is something that everyone is super proud of, and it's hard to make a decision as opposed to someone failing.
Well,
and the challenge with glass is that, like, the failure can happen right up until the moment that they put it in the box.
Oh my God!
Right, like at one point, a guy was done with a thing and just barely grazed a sculpture against a too cold caliper as he was moving into the box, and it just exploded.
Oh my God!
And he had to start over. Right, but they give him enough time that they can start over multiple times. They give enough time they can do like color tests and stuff like that. Because one of the things I didn't think about, but when you're dealing with molten glass, you can't tell what color it's going to turn out when you blend all the different colors together.
Oh wow!
Because it's always red hot, and by the time you get it cool enough to tell, you can't work on it anymore necessarily.
Wow. That's the part of all these type of competition shows, right? Whenever they're coming up with an idea, they want to find a process that one is going to have some tension and excitement that you can capture on camera. Won't necessarily be like a 7-day process or a 2-month-long process that sometimes many processes do take, and then they have to actually fit it with the constraints of a production. You know, they probably only film for 2 to 3 weeks,
days,
right? Exactly,
or 22 days, or something.
And so, how do you make a schedule that works? You know, every show, whether it's from cooking to the makeup shows, special effects shows, to sword making shows, they all have these like kind of variables that they have to work with.
Well, and the thing that I love that they did, the choice that they made on this is they show the glass blowing part, but they don't show like the assembly of the actual sculpture. So if it's like a 3 or 4 piece, multi-piece piece, then they'll come back the next day after the stuff's cooled off and do the presentation, and then they just present it to the judges the same way the audience sees the finished piece for the first time. So it's like
it's always a surprise, even though you've watched the process.
Well, that's where they put the drama with the art rather than with the process and the people, which is a nice thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fascinating. It's called Blown Away. It's on Netflix.
Great name too.
Check it out.
Good name. Good name. That's very important.
Yeah.
Before we continue on with the conversation, I want to let you know that support for Still Untitled this week is made possible with support from Bombas Socks. When I was in school way back in the early 90s, the coolest thing ever to wear was Nautica jackets. If you grew up in the early or mid-90s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You were cool if you had one, and if you didn't, well, then you wanted one. Now the coolest things in school are Bombas socks. I have them, but I'm no longer in school anymore. Bombas are the most comfortable kids and adult socks ever. They're designed with several comfort innovations that help make them feel better than any other kid's sock ever made. And they're so colorful, literally bursting with color. They even have a colorful little bee on them. And since Bombas donates a pair of socks for every pair purchase, you should get some for yourself too. Again, I love how comfortable they are, and as a big kid no longer in school, comfort is something I value a ton. So send your kids back to school with Bombas, the socks that will keep them comfy, colorful, and ready to take on the school year. Visit bombas.com/untitled and get 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/untitled for 20% off your first purchase. bombas.com/untitled. Now back to the conversation.
I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2 last night again.
Still good?
Still great. Still great. You'll be happy to know. Still awesome. Yeah. I think it was only 3 weeks since I saw it recently.
Young Kurt Russell, still my third favorite young Marvel performer.
You know, the thing about Russell is it's like, what is this like? It's like when Sylvester Stallone was in Copland. And you got to see him hold his own against a roster of highly respected actors. And at that point in time, he wasn't among them as like highly respected for his acting chops. Yeah. And there he is opposite Robert De Niro and Harvey Keitel and a host of other wonderful actors in Copland. And you're like, right, I guess you don't even get to be Sylvester Stallone unless you're really good. I mean, maybe he chooses clearly he chooses different movies to be in than they do. But he has real acting chops, and he's shown it repeatedly since then in other movies like Creed and Rocky Balboa and other stuff like that. In this one, Kurt Russell just shows why he's been a movie star for like 50 years. Everything
pure charisma,
right? Yeah, total charisma.
He has the factor, the X factor.
Yeah.
Right anyway, up until the moment.
I won't go on too long because I think I just talked about it a month ago, so we'll stop. Brett.
But it's one point you mentioned, because that one does open with, and they made a big deal about that, Lola doing the de-aging makeup plus some effects, which we see a lot in a lot of the Marvel films.
And Captain Marvel, Sam Jack. When our kids are our age, they're going to be like, did that movie come out before or after? And it's going to be hard to know. It's because of all this digital scrubbing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel. You look at the work that they did with Robert Downey Jr.'s dad in Endgame, and I mean everybody in Endgame, frankly, it's just astounding.
It's really wonderful.
And same aging up at the end of Endgame.
I feel like the aging up at the end of Endgame was less good than the aging down.
Oh no,
I actually think the aging up is fantastic.
So much of that was in the performance. That was his unaltered acting voice.
Yeah,
Chris Evans we're talking about.
It's amazing how far that's come, even from like Rogue One.
Oh yeah.
Well, speaking of which, because that's a completely digital human. And so there are 2 trailers just came out. One, The Irishman, so that's Scorsese's new film on Netflix. I haven't watched that. And people have been making a big deal about there's some de-aging there, De Niro and Pesci. Right. And watching the trailer, I didn't notice it because in my head, it's the De Niro.
Right. It's the prototype.
And it's not
until...
to me? Yeah, it's not until you like Google De Niro 2019, like you realize, oh, wow,
he's way older.
He's older now. Yeah. And so that's passes as a great effect. And then the other one, that Will Smith movie, Gemini Man, read that younger Will Smith is a completely digital person.
Really? But Will Smith did the performance.
But what a digital...
But like face capture performance?
Yes, so performance capture for the face stuff. But it's not makeup. It is... What you're seeing is a head completely replaced with a digital head.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
And they think it's the first time they can, pass them kind of real
character. Back to Guardians for a second.
Welcome to our Guardians of the Galaxy 2 podcast. Still Garden.
I came across this thing that it turns out that a lot of the movement acting of Rocket was done by James Gunn's brother.
Yes.
Oh.
Rocket. Sean Gunn does the stand-in for Rocket, and Sean Gunn is a character in. He's one of the.
He's one of the Marauders.
Yes. And then James Gunn does all the body stuff for Groot.
Oh, he does. Oh, okay.
So when like Groot dances in the beginning,
that's James Gunn.
Was he in the pot too?
In my in my head, it was in my head. They like brought in Vin Diesel for a day to do all sorts of cute dancing.
Really, look.
I had built up this whole fantasy of Vin Diesel being really.
Did he attend one of the premieres like on stilts?
Did he?
I think he did. As Groot.
Is this going to be Vin Diesel's only appearance in the MCU?
That could be.
Right.
No. But we have to move on. I'm sorry. I keep derailing this conversation back.
Thus ends our Guardians of the Galaxy 2 podcast. Still Garden.
Hey, we didn't even talk about all the cool Marvel stuff that was announced at Comic-Con.
Did they announce stuff at Comic-Con?
So much.
What, really?
The whole Phase 4.
I didn't think there was a Comic-Con this year. Adam wasn't there. It's all off.
The whole Phase 4.
The whole Phase 4.
The whole Phase 4.
We know what it all is now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, I'm messing with you. I was on the other podcast talking about this like 3 weeks ago.
Live trolling here on the podcast, everybody.
The best name of any Marvel film coming up, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
And it's the first MCU horror film.
That's right. Yes.
I totally dig that. In the Mountains of Madness, they're quoting.
Yeah.
They're quoting some Lovecraft there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I'm not incorrect.
Oh my God, that immediately... Yeah. Making that connection,
tentacles
and magic.
Oh man,
yeah, sold.
The one that I was excited about. I guess that was probably the one I was excited about.
Well, Thor 4.
Thor 4. The Thor 4 logo is just
Love and
super
Thunder.
Exciting. Thor 4 is exciting. Wait, what's the other one that's that one's definitely really exciting.
WandaVision.
No, the next Guardians film, which is all about Rocket's backstory.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what they've said. Yeah, there's room to explore
there. And James Gunn is very clear that in his MCU, Rocket is him.
Oh.
And Rocket is absolutely my wife's favorite character in the entire MCU.
Rocket, the arc that Rocket has had so far,
dude,
is like the fact that he took the most ridiculous, one of the more ridiculous characters in the Marvel universe, and turned it into this thing that everybody empathizes with, and is like the heart anchor of the first half of Endgame is amazing.
No, it's totally incredible. And I mean, again, like in Endgame when Rocket and Nebula hold hands after Nebula returns, like I just I watched that also last week, and it brought me to tears again.
Yeah.
That's to say that next week we are also going to be at your first big comic book convention in a long time. We're going to be at Silicon Valley Comic-Con.
That's 2 weeks.
A week and an end of next week.
Yeah, end of next week. I was under the impression last week that it was next weekend, so I was kind of freaking out about my costume. But luckily, I have an extra week to cover.
Don't worry, you're going to get Groot all together. It'll be fine.
I wish. I would love to. I need to. Actually, if Doug Jones listens to this podcast, Doug, do you think maybe you and Rick Baker and I could work together on a Groot costume?
Oh man,
wouldn't that be the best?
I think you should do a baby Groot costume in the little pot, and
with Avery.
Yeah.
I think Avery, a Rocket Raccoon costume for Avery.
Rocket Raccoon,
because there's nothing cuter than a baby raccoon.
A baby dad. It's the only time the raccoons are cute.
He's booked for Hellboy.
My war against
Baby
raccoons
Hellboy is, I think that's probably the first one.
Oh man, Baby Hellboy.
Yeah. But yeah, so Silicon Valley Comic-Con will be there. Yes, you're doing an incognito.
I am doing an incognito. I'm working on it right now in the cave. Mel and Jen are furiously working away. Some friends are 3D printing me some stuff. This is more 3D printed stuff than I have yet had in a costume, in this costume.
I mean, it's your path with 3D printing, because I remember when we first started talking to you, you were like, I'm not so sure about this stuff.
Well, I'm just not so sure how useful it is to me.
Yeah. And then with the mecha hand, Sean did a lot for you.
Sean did, it was amazing what he did. The thing about it is that Sean did it in conjunction with this other guy from the RPF, Joe Trash from the RPF, who's a longtime friend and collaborator. And actually, he's helped me out with some of the files for one of the things I'm working on soon.
Oh, cool.
But that Millenbaugh motivator, it's such an old 3D print that it's bending under the torsional load of just its aesthetics. So it needs a complete reconstruction.
You should get it done in titanium. So you know some people now, I think.
am going to get it done in aluminum.
Okay.
That is going to be the next
to machine
thing.
it.
What's that?
Machine it.
No. 3D printed in aluminum.
Oh,
that's the goal.
What? How often do you dust in here?
We have.
I was just looking around. I was like, man, my house I have to dust all the time.
Well,
I can't even imagine.
Cleaners come once a week to clean the whole facility. Oh, wow. But I mean, it's not like they're dusting C-3PO's face or anything. That's why a lot of the stuff is in cabinets.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. I've been in here for 10 years almost now, and it never even occurred to me.
Speaking of things that are close by that you hadn't thought of, I had breakfast this morning at a San Francisco institution, a diner that many people don't know exists on Market Street, between Valencia and Guerrero on Market, called It's Tops.
Oh.
And it is a little greasy spoon with fantastic. It's got exactly what you want: scrambled eggs with bacon, waffles, pancakes,
home
that kind
fries,
of stuff.
hash browns.
I can't. I don't know. I actually didn't get them this morning. I just got scrambled eggs and bacon, but right out of Central Casting. It's a beautiful. In your head when you think diner, this is the space you think of. It's a small little diner.
Tabletops.
Yeah, totally.
That sounds pretty good.
I've been going there for years. I've been going there for decades.
Well, you just ruined it. I'm sorry.
No. People are always asking for recommendations of visiting San Francisco for the first time. It's a great place. You can't answer all the emails, but It's Tops. And then you went to a place I saw over the weekend with an amazing sandwich.
Yeah, I had with Julie and I went to. She introduced this to me over 15 years ago. Mario's Cigar Store.
Oh. Yes.
Their sandwiches in North Beach are mind-blowing, and specifically their sandwich, the combo, which is ham and mustard on a roll, and it's just it's stunning. I had cheese, ham, mustard. Yeah,
I had like an Italian, like a 2 salami or 3 salami.
Yeah, they have a lot of sandwiches, and they're all really good. And their best sandwich is the combo.
We used to go there.
I've never been there.
Maybe I went there with the Giant Bomb guys when we were when we had offices
North
over
Beach.
there. Yeah,
got it. Mario's
Cigar Store, fabulous, totally amazing.
And this past weekend, I went to the farmers market, local one, close to where I live and had an amazing crab melt. And the guy who made the crab melt says he listens to our podcast and falls asleep every night or every week listening to it. So hopefully he's really hungry after the end of this podcast.
Oh, nice. Hungry. Dreams of hunger.
Yeah.
Maybe the sandwich is chasing you. Maybe that's something.
Oh, no, that's a scary dream.
We're trolling his dream. First prize, first prize, first prize.
My favorite place that I've started going lately in San Francisco is the Dancing Yak. It's a Nepalese place at like 14th and Valencia.
Okay.
14th or 15th.
Yeah.
And they have momo. Like, I've eaten a bunch of stuff there. It's where whenever I have like vegetarian or vegan friends that want to go someplace, and I don't want them to get stuck eating eggplant that they're not going to be excited about, we go there.
Yeah.
Because they have a ton of vegetarian food, but like the momos are exceptional. I mean, dumplings always good, but like these are notable. And the goat is there's a curried goat that they do that's delicious.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. That's a great place to end.
Yeah,
I think getting people hungry. Yeah. Inspired to eat, inspired to make stuff.
Have a good nap.
I think a little bit of positivity is great for this week.
Indeed. I am off to Portland to do an appearance tomorrow, and I'll see you guys later on this week while we film some of the final build and assembly of my Silicon Valley Comic-Con costume.
More one-day builds. Please check out some of the videos that are coming out this week. Last week, we had the video of Adam meeting Neil Armstrong's suit.
What a thing. How beautiful. It was so beautiful.
Yep. At the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum.
I dressed up for the occasion. I wore Ryan Nagata's spacesuit.
You wore Tom's shoes.
Yes.
Moon boots.
Yes.
Mars
Everyone
boots.
was with me. Anthony Kovac's checklist pocket was also there.
It's very good.
And this week, I believe we have the videos of the projection mapping on the Washington Monument.
Oh, cool.
And the whole process of how that was made. You get a lot of the animation, which I didn't see until watching the video.
It was totally amazing. And there's one thing there's a factoid I want to close our podcast with that we got told to by the projection team. So we got to meet and interview the team from 59 Productions in London that designed and executed the incredible projection show on the Washington Monument during the Apollo 50th celebration. And they were commissioned to project the rocket. They came with all this other wonderful elaboration, and the execution was amazing. I mean, we watched it several times, but we got a lot of inside baseball about how difficult it is to do something that big and public in Washington, D.C., of all places. And one of the things that occurred was when they finally got permission to do the projection from that side, the Parks Department explained to them that if they were going to do the projection, then they had to be responsible for lighting the monument when they weren't doing the projection for that whole week.
You can't have the Washington Monument dark.
Right, and they weren't, and so the Parks Department was because turn out the lights on that side.
Wow.
So you have to be responsible for it. But the projectors, what they explained to us is the projectors are so bright and hot that you can't just remove a slide and project the raw light because it would actually blow it out.
Yeah.
So they projected the monument on itself.
Yo, dog, I heard you like monuments.
So it wasn't even a matter of running the projectors nonstop. It was about getting an image. It needed an image.
In order to color balance and light balance that side of the monument with the other three sides.
It wouldn't have looked right.
And that is
man, that's amazing.
That's a magnificent attention to detail, right? That is something that no one knows about that they did because they.
But like the beauty of that is that they have, like the problem is, hey, we in order to get the light right so that it matches the other sides, we could just balance we could spend a lot of time figuring out how much we need to dim the projector, what virtual screens we need to put in front of it, or we could just take a picture of the monument and put it on the monument. That's amazing.
I know. It's the lo-fi, hi-fi genius workaround that made me so happy when I heard about it.
They were tempted to like have Spider-Man swing around the top occasionally.
Hey, 59 Productions, when you guys come to California, please come by the cave. You have an open invitation. We heard from their staff that many of them are listeners to the podcast and absorbers of tested content. And we are now in a mutual admiration society because those guys killed it in D.C.
I went to the dog surfing in Pacifica this weekend.
And that's where the podcast ends.
See y'all next week.
Bye.